Okay, we should be live, but we'll wait for YouTube to give us feedback. Okay, I can see it on my screen. Hey folks, good evening. If you can just quickly confirm on chat if the AV's audio video is okay, and then we'll get started. This is a ritual that I have to unfortunately do with YouTube because I don't trust it. But yeah, let me know on chat if the AV is clear, and then we'll get started. Okay, great. I've got a confirmation from the 2IM team. Hopefully the audience can hear it as well. Folks, do let me know on chat, but I think it should be okay. All right. Great, let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this YouTube live stream. You obviously know why you're here. You've seen the topic. So this live stream, of course, is being brought to you by 2IM. We're going to be in conversation with the BITSoM team today. And the focus is going to be on placements for their founding batch. All right. So it's going to be an interesting session because we have a fantastic panel lined up. We have people not only from the BITSoM management team, but we also have two of their brilliant students from the founding batch, right? So I'm particularly excited about the students. I'm also excited about the BITSoM panel, but as a teacher, it's always fun to interact with students. So, Devarshi and Sumit, welcome. I'll just quickly introduce the panel, folks, and then we'll get started with the session. So on the panel, we have Mr. Mandar Desai, who is the head of industry partnerships and career services from BITSoM. He's got a wealth of corporate experience, and he also comes from ISB. So his previous stint before BITSoM was with ISB, and he also he heads placements at BITSoM. Mandar, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jatin.
Amazing. And then next we have a familiar face. You've seen him before on our channel. Uday was with us before in a separate BITSoM session. So Uday Virmani is Assistant Dean of External Engagements at BITSoM. He also has a wealth of corporate experience, and interestingly, he also comes from ISB. His previous stint was ISB. So welcome, Uday.
Good evening, Jatin. Thank you so much for having us here.
Awesome, awesome. Great to have you here. And yeah, as I said, we have two students as well. So we have Sumit Saboo, who's a BTech chemical engineer from VNIT Nagpur. He's got 22 months of consulting experience. And one interesting fact about him is he's a global winner of a Harvard hackathon in the environment category. This was in 2019, I guess. So welcome, Sumit.
Thank you, Jatin.
Amazing. Awesome. And last but definitely not the least, we have another student, Devarshi Trivedi. He is a BTech mechanical engineer from Nirma University, Ahmedabad. 14 months of work experience in the chemical industry. And he's an avid quizzer and has won several national quiz competitions. Welcome, Devarshi.
Hi, Ethan. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Great to have you folks here. Awesome, folks. So let's get started. We have lots to cover. The focus, as I said, is definitely going to be on placements for the founding batch. As you folks may know, BITSoM released their press release a few weeks ago, outlining their placements for their founding batch, which was the 21 to 23 batch. If you haven't gone through the press release, you can check out the YouTube description. The link is there. You can check it out later. Right. So the whole idea is to discuss the placements today with the team, and of course with the students to hear about their journey at BITSoM and also the placement experience. All right. So so I have a set of questions which I've collected from students beforehand. I'll go through those questions first, and then of course we'll have lots of time towards the end for the Q&A on YouTube. Okay. So you don't have to wait for your questions. You can put your questions on chat. I'll keep on picking questions from chat every now and then. All right. Okay, let's get started. So question for Mandar and Uday. Actually, not really a question, but the press release was released a few weeks ago, right? We've gone through it. Very interesting, some great sort of figures around salaries, some great recruiters. If you can just take us through the highlights of the placements, I think that would be a great starting point.
Sure. Thank you, Jatin. Good evening, everyone. Wonderful to be here this evening. So as all of you are aware, our founding batch just graduated 2 days ago on Friday. And it was a wonderful convocation ceremony that we had with Mr. Uday Kotak being present as the chief guest at the function. Now, speaking of the highlights as far as the placements are concerned, we had the top names from all the different domains which visited us for the final hiring. which includes the likes of McKinsey, Bain, Arthur D. Little, A.D. Kearney from the strategy consulting domain. We had the likes of HUL, Nestle, Pidilite, which came in from the consumer durables, consumer products segment. We had the IT companies which came in, IT and tech companies which came in, the likes of HSBC Technology, the likes of Cisco, all of them made their presence felt. We had the top domestic banks which came in, ICICI, Yes, Kotak Bank. We had a set of IBP firms also which made their presence felt. So for the first batch, that was quite encouraging and satisfying, because usually IBP firms do take a few years before they actually visit campuses. In our case, we were able to get them and they were able to pick up relevant talent and went away happily as far as the hiring is concerned. We had the conglomerates, the likes of British Petroleum, Aditya Birla Group, who also visited. Eureka Forbes came in, and they've been able to pick up students for their respective requirements that they had. Now, if you look at the average CTC that we had put out, 23.7 lakhs is the average CTC. As far as the top 10% of the class is concerned, it's about 37.02. The top 30% is about 30.46. And the top 75%, happy to say that it's about 25.54. So about 25.5, 25.6 or so. So the good part is it's not just the top 10 percentile or 20 percentile which have got good salaries, but even the top 75% of the class. So it's largely a broad-based kind of a placement outcome that we've been able to generate for the founding batch. Now, more than 95 students have received CTC of 20 lakhs and above, in fact, 97 to be precise. And more than 90 companies, unique companies, have featured as far as both the summers and the final placements are concerned. So 2 summers and the finals that we had more than 90 companies uniquely which visited us. So all in all, it's been a good, last about a year and a half or so, if I were to say. And companies have visited across domains, as I said earlier. So whether it's consulting, whether it's consumer, whether it's tech, whether it's BFSI, we've had good representation across the board.
Okay.
Is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, so Jatin, as we talk, by and large, the entire class has been placed. We are left with around about 6 students who don't have even a single offer. So out of 138 students, 132 have been placed and have at least one offer. And there are 6 we are still working with, because there are special cases, they have their special requirements. So unlike other B schools where we try, we don't try to push students out of the placement process. We look into their requirements and we work along with them. Right. So the current figure of 23.70 is pertaining to the 95% of the class which has got placed.
Right. Okay. Good to know that. I think that was a question that sort of came up after the press release about the the total placements vis-a-vis the batch size. So great to know that.
We have been progressing since the press release has come out. It's been almost 3 weeks, as you very rightly said, since the press release had gone. It was an interim press release. Yeah. We will be going out with the final placement report once we place the entire class, and those will be the audited numbers.
Okay. And Uday, when is that expected? Because I did sort of get questions about that as well, the detailed placement report. I think there's a lot of interest in that as well.
So we are targeting somewhere, usually it happens around about 3 weeks after the graduation, traditionally what we have seen with all the other schools. Right. So we are targeting by the first week of May. Hopefully by then, these 6 students with whom we are working should get their career outcomes.
Awesome.
The desired career outcomes, to be more precise.
Right. I understand. Okay, great to know that. So folks, so this was a very common question that we used to get from our students at least. So look forward to the detailed placement report in the first week of May. We will of course be releasing that. Once we get that copy, we'll be releasing the link on our channel as well, so you can look forward to that. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think those are some great highlights. Now. There are a couple of domains. I think, Mandar, you said that investment banking, of course, is one of those coveted domains, right? I think consulting is also something that, if you ask, I think 1 in 3 MBA students will tell you that they have consulting aspirations, right? It's definitely a top choice, and it's great to see that there have been some big names, in the recruiting from the founding batch. Could you give us an idea of how many students received consulting offers and what kind of roles were they offered?
So Jatin, you are right in saying that consulting along with IBP is one of the sought after domains at B schools, most of the B schools. And generally, there's been a survey that has been carried out by GMAC and most of the others who have said that about 25 to 30% of the batch, if it gets placed into consulting or moves into consulting, that's considered healthy for a B school per se. Okay. Now, as far as we are concerned, as I mentioned, we had the top names from the strategy consulting companies that came in. We had the big fours that came in. So in our case, if you look at about 25% of the batch has gone into the consulting domain, of which about, to be precise, 7 students have gone into the strategy consulting specific MBBs, if you were to ask me.
Got it. Yeah.
Those are the kind of numbers that we're looking at. Yeah. We've also had the big fours which came onto the campus, and they have also hired in good numbers.
Okay. All right.
So, Jatin, if you look at, sorry to interject, to look at the aggregate numbers, we almost had 10 consulting firms come and hire. Now, this is across the spectrum: strategy consulting, transaction consulting, transaction advisory, tech consulting, and operation consulting. So I think the very first year of placements, it's quite a surreal number, if you ask me. And big fours were there, but also we added some boutique firms like Praxis Global Consulting. Right. Then, we had some of the others, new names which came and did the hiring. So I think pretty well covered in terms of the, the students who were aspiring to get into consulting. Right. But along with that, we also had many strategy roles which came within the conglomerates or within, some big houses like Eureka folks. For example, Sumit would be joining Eureka in their transformation and digital business. So again, it has the underpinning of strategy. So one was the consulting firm, but we also had the conglomerates, and we also had the likes of product management companies and product tech companies which came for strategy.
Nice, very nice. I think I was going to ask you, Sumit, because you had consulting experience. I was going to ask you, are you going to continue on that path, or you're choosing another path? So well done, congratulations, Sumit. I think that's a fantastic placement.
Thank you.
Right, nice. Okay, so moving on from consulting to investment banking, I think the same question, right? How many students received investment banking, or in general BFSI? Actually, not just investment banking, there's a lot of interest in the BFSI domain as well. So if you can just give us an idea about that, how many students got offers and what kind of roles were they offered in this domain?
So BFSI overall, as I mentioned to you, the domestic banks made their presence felt. As far as the roles are concerned, they came in for the management trainee roles, the young manager role that is available for the younger folk, actually.
Right.
That's as far as overall BFSI is concerned. Okay. As far as IBP is concerned, we had about, if I'm not mistaken, about 6 to 7 people who moved into the IBP domain per se.
Nice.
Normally what happens is, as you would be aware and the audience would be aware, IBP typically prefers the summer route for hiring. Usually the PPO route is the one that is sought after as far as IB roles are concerned. Right. So this year, as far as the summers are concerned for the class of 24, we've got almost about 11 students who have got into the IBP domain. Okay. That obviously will result in greater conversion. So I'm sure the numbers will look far healthier for the next year. Having said that, this year also we've got about 6 or 7 people who've got into the IBP domain per se.
Got it. So the second batch students, a number of them got internships with internships with IBP firms, which are likely to convert into PPOs.
That's right.
So as far as BFSI is concerned, when we talk about everything, the consumer banking, the corporate banking, the IBP, overall from the founding class, some 14 students made the cut.
Okay.
That was also quite good. There were a few candidates who had generated PPOs for themselves during the summer. And again, because now the second batch has come in, so we have improved on that number over the founding class, and this will keep improving. Nice. See, as it is, our class size is small, it's 138 students. So if you look at overall pool, I think if you look at the denominator, I think we have done pretty well.
Okay. And regarding the batch size, I mean, I'm sure it's a conscious move from BITSoM's end to keep it small for obvious reasons. The 23 to 25 batch, is the class batch size expected to remain the same, or are we expecting sort of a slightly higher number for the batch size?
So this year definitely we'll expand. We are planning to go up to 150, but very rightly said by you, the first 2 years it was a conscious decision to keep the class size limited, because we wanted to focus on quality. We wanted to ensure that we get great academic outcomes, we get great market outcomes.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, so it's kind of a good news. The number is slightly going up this season, so good news for the folks who are waiting, and there are quite a number of folks who are waiting for their, quite looking forward to sort of converting, and those who applied in round 3 and round 4. So yeah, all the best to them as well. Great. So folks, do put in your questions in chat. I'll keep taking them every now and then. Of course, these questions that I'm asking have also been asked by most of the students, but yeah, definitely if you have a question, put them on YouTube live chat, and I'll pick it up as soon as possible. All right. So coming down to freshers, right, Mandaro, there is I've been working with students for quite some time. Freshers typically have this concern, right, that they lag behind folks with work experience. I mean, let's say if there is a student like Sumit who comes in with 22 months of consulting experience versus a fresher is bound to feel a little sort of antsy that, will I lag behind during placements? Will companies not prefer me because I don't have work experience? So if you can throw some light on the kind of roles and salaries that were offered to freshers. I know around 23% of the founding batch were freshers. So if you can just give us some details, I think that'll help the freshers who are listening today.
So, Jatin, the way it works is, you rightly mentioned about 23% of the batch are freshers. But typically what we've been doing at our end in terms of the preparation, as far as our learning and development partners are concerned, as far as, within the ecosystem, the learning that we are imparting to these students, there is no reason for a fresher to feel left behind or to feel that, he or she is not as prepared as somebody else. Now, typically, as I mentioned earlier, the management trainee roles were offered for the freshers. Companies did come over and recruit and hire. And when I say that 75% of the batch has done well in terms of, 75% of the batch has got an average of about 25.5 lakhs as the CTC. It's obvious that, a large part of the freshers also get covered within that. So, if you were to look at a broad range, the range is what I have already specified earlier.
Right.
The average in terms of the higher numbers as far as the batch dynamics are concerned.
So, Jatin, usually what happens is for a management trainee or for a leadership cadre role, companies put a bracket of 0 to 36 months.
Okay.
So freshers get covered in that particular range.
Right.
Anything above 36 months gets classified as lateral talent. But anything below 36 months is basically in the range of 0 to 36, as simple as that.
Okay.
So freshers don't get anywhere, they're not anywhere disadvantaged.
Right.
They're good. See, when a company comes, they look into many spikes what a student has gone through in his entire life cycle.
Right.
The academic spikes, the leadership ability that they have shown through their co-curricular activities at the undergraduate level or even at the postgraduate level. The communication skills, the self-awareness. And for the freshers, I think the internship plays a very, very critical role in terms of generating or creating opportunities for themselves.
Absolutely.
So in fact, many of our students, we had almost 45, 46 PPOs which came in for our founding class, and out of which 36 got accepted. Many were freshers who made a way for themselves.
Okay, that's great.
Because the FMCG firms, your IBP, they're looking for fresh talents because they want to grow people organically.
Right.
The consulting firms or some of the general management roles which prefer people with experience, because that involves people management, it involves stakeholder management,
of course,
it involves business management. So we have a good mix because the average work ex of the class was around about 2 years.
Okay.
So we had a good mix of digital natives and migrants studying together. And that's why we could create both kind of opportunities. So we had the management training or the leadership cadre role, which is basically meant for structured MBA hiring. Plus we also had some of the lateral roles coming in. Now, for example, the role for which Sumit got selected, but this was completely a market link role.
Right.
It was meant for a lateral talent.
Right. Of course.
His experience is around about 22 months, less than 36, but he did qualify for a lateral hiring.
Right. Okay. That's great to know. I think that's good news for freshers because this is always sort of a concern for them. So considering that they are given equal opportunities in that 0 to 36 bracket, I think that's great. And even the 75% of batch that that Mandar was talking about has got a healthy mix of freshers as well. So I think that should give you some much needed relief, right, to the freshers. Okay, awesome. So Uday, you just touched upon certain aspects that recruiters look for when they come to hire, right? So yeah, again, I'm sure that differs from company to company, role to role, whether it's lateral or a fresher, 0 to 36 bracket. But typically, what are those key aspects that recruiters look for? And specifically, the CGPA or the score that they get during the MBA, does that matter a lot when it comes to placements?
See, as far as grades are concerned, see, we have a non-disclosure policy, like any other global business school. We do not specify to the companies. We leave it to the student's discretion to give his or her.
Okay.
But certain roles,
Right.
because the kind of rigor that they involve, they do take into consideration the grades for hygiene. Consulting, IBP roles definitely keep grades into consideration, but it's just not the grade
Right.
which is the showstopper. It's also
Right,
what kind of skills and abilities what a candidate has, what kind of work that they have done before their MBA, what kind of an educational qualifications that they had. Now, just to answer to what skills companies are looking for, is something called future, talent for the future. Communication skills, ability to work in groups, strong EQ, right? A good understanding about the numbers, appreciation about new age technologies. So these are some of the key things what the recruiters are looking. And so it's across the spectrum. It's not only about the consulting firms or the new age firms. In fact, a lot of traditional firms which are unwired and are going through a transformational journey. They want people who have an appreciation about AI, about ML. So they're not looking for people who will come and create technologies, but who can use technologies for the betterment of the business.
Absolutely. Okay. That's great. That's great to know. So I think one thing, just general sort of point for everyone listening, right? I think when Uday was giving us the skills, I think the first 3 skills were soft skills, right? Yes. And often that gets neglected in the mix. You find people usually with really good numerical skills, really good analytical skills, but the 3 soft skills are sort of more long-term, and they sometimes get deprioritized. So I guess that's something for you folks to keep in mind. MBA aspirants that don't neglect those bits. I think they're as important as the hard skills.
Yeah. And also the good thing is that because we are a new age school and we have looked into what industry's requirements are, there is something called winning at the workplace. This is a parallel track which goes along with the core and the specialization.
Correct.
So we teach courses basically which prepare talent for the soft skills.
Right.
So Sumit and Devarshi can elaborate more around it.
Sure.
But whatever the feedback that we got from the recruiters post their summers, definitely this talent was differentiated. It was very different from the other B schools because the kind of ownership that they brought in, the kind of the empathy that they had for the other stakeholders within the organization. What reflected for the kind of training that they got.
That's great. Yeah, Sumit and Devarshi, thanks for waiting, by the way. I'll come to you folks once the placement discussion is over, but definitely would like your insights on the WAW program. That's what you call it, right? Because I was watching a video. I watched a video about a day in a life of a BITSomer. Very interesting. The whole. So I think the part about the WAW session was also covered. Would love to hear about that. When we discuss that. Okay. Great. So I think that's fantastic. Okay, I'll take one student question verbatim, right? So one of our students was wondering that she saw the placement release and she was like, okay, this is a great average CTC for a founding batch. It seems much better than your peers in terms of the new colleges that have come up, right? So she was wondering. She said, why do recruiters prefer BITSoM? What attracted them to BITSoM? What is that X factor that BITSoM has that probably the other colleges don't? And this is a question, by the way, from a student verbatim, right? This is not
Jatin, it's definitely not flash in the pan. It's a very well thought efforts which have been put over the last 2 years.
Correct.
To start with, it's the kind of talent that we brought into our class.
Right.
We got very lucky with our founding class because COVID was in the air. And many of them who could have actually had qualified and had admits from international B schools and universities, they opted for BITSoM.
Okay.
So I think we got very lucky with the quality of the class that we got.
Right.
Second is the teaching. We get international faculty from different parts of the world.
Absolutely.
We have professors coming from Yale, from Johns Hopkins, from Singapore Management University. So it's a melting pot in many ways.
Right.
And it's 1,700 hours of rigor. No 2-year MBA in the country makes students study for 1,700 hours. So I think the amount of rigor is huge. We have already spoken about that winning at the workplace.
Yes.
And then this is the first school in the country, a 2-year MBA program, which has a dedicated career services team.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It works throughout the year. It's not a seasonal activity. We engage with the clients regularly for multiple interventions. Plus, the friends of BITSoM, the ecosystem is huge.
Yep.
So we have practitioners who come and teach. They bring their network. We have the senior faculty in Leena Chatterjee, Dean Ranjan Banerjee. They bring their network. Then, of course, it's not a hidden fact that ABG is very closely associated with BITS Pilani.
Yes.
They bring their, they bring their network. So I think we have been lucky that way. Mandar and Uday Virmani were also a little bit, they also a little bit contributed in the network ecosystem. So I think it's an entire team effort which has helped.
Nice.
And I think it's a very well thought, process that we created in terms of the policies related to the students or to the recruiters, which has given the results to us.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Jatin, if I may also add, to what Uday mentioned, the intake pool that we have is also quite a differentiated pool as compared to our peers typically. So while we do consider GRE, GMAT, and CAT as the scores for hygiene purposes, we also look at the personal interview. So it's more of a holistic evaluation of a person rather than just looking at test scores. So obviously, from that perspective also, students have done very well, and it's a pretty diverse mix, so to say.
Right, definitely. Yeah, I think that sort of came out very clearly when I saw transcripts from BITSoM's interviews, right? I mean, a lot of our students interviewed. So when they came back and just looking at the duration of the personal interview and the kind of questions, behavioral questions that were being asked in the interview, clearly differentiated from a lot of other colleges, right? Which seems to be focused on standard, static GK and all of that. So the interviews were definitely different. So looked like, that was a major deciding factor. So yeah, that's great to know. All right, let me take another student question. So one of the students, I think definitely a techie, his question was, can we expect the likes of Microsoft, Google, and Accenture to visit the campus in the coming years? I know Accenture was there. I think I did see that name in the press release, but I think, they were asking if the FAANG companies, will they be there?
Yes, definitely. So Uday, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. So Mandar, please go ahead.
No, so definitely we had interactions with all of these companies that you mentioned. Unfortunately, this year the tech domain itself has been a bit lackluster, if I were to say, as compared to earlier years. And they haven't made their presence felt at most of the other campuses, barring a symbolic presence per se at the legacy campuses. So definitely we are in talks with them, and hopefully next year we should be able to have them on board. Okay.
That's great. So so this connected question. So the slowdown or recession, what do you think was the impact on the placements of the founding batch for you? Because of course, we've had mass layoffs across tech companies and other domains as well. So was there? Do you think there was an impact on the founding batch placements?
I mean, to a certain extent, yes. I mean, we saw that the likes of Microsoft and Amazon. See, as it is, we were a new campus. Right. And their hiring numbers had reduced. So so what they did was they stuck to their traditional legacy campuses. The companies which otherwise would have been in the mood to explore new campus, they're a little bit refrained. Cautious. And also some of the e-commerce and startup firms which usually do a larger hiring, which they did over the last 3 years, because of the slowdown, they were a little conspicuous by their absence. Yeah. Understandable. Okay. Fantastic. Great. Let me see. Yeah, folks. So do keep putting your questions. I'll keep coming down to that. I think placement-wise, the questions that I have, I've covered most of them, right? And of course, I'll keep picking questions on the chat as well. I think Sumit and Devarshi have been waiting very patiently. Let me go to them for a while. So yeah, both of you. I mean, very open-ended question right now. If you can just take us through the highlights of your BITSoM journey, right? I mean, your sort of founding batch, definitely extra special because it's the first batch. It's coming to an end. I have a lot of students, a lot of my 2IIM students who've been pinging me from other colleges. It's definitely an emotional thing, right? It's a mixed situation right now. So yeah, take us through your highlights, personal highlights of your BITSoM journey. Anyone?
So if I may start.
Sure.
So before coming to BITSoM, I remember I was very nervous on the very first day because seeing my bright batch of people and so on. And our first interaction was with Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla. And that was on Zoom call. And I was very nervous to ask him a question, but still I went on to ask him a question. And he's very humble and kind in person. So he gave a very nice reply to it. And that's how my journey started. So my confidence since the last 2 years has boosted a lot. It has transformed phenomenally. Second thing, I got to find my hidden talents, which I couldn't find before. So coming from an engineering background, I used to use my analytical skills a lot. It was like overuse. But I did not realize that I was creative also. And while coming to BITSoM, the curriculum is designed such a way that you have to give your creative inputs a lot. It challenges you, it pushes you to explore your boundaries. And I remember our dean, Dr. Ranjan Banerjee, once gave all of us an open challenge to write a 100-word short story. And I did not used to write before, but I took that challenge and I wrote a very short story of a psycho thriller. It was very well appreciated by my batchmates, by professor and all of them. And then I started writing poems and short stories. I made a Medium blog. Then I made a blog on Wattpad and so on. And now I'm trying to start my own podcast during this vacation.
Very nice.
So
very nice.
I realized that I'm very creative.
Devarshi, much needed for an engineer. I think every engineer needs to explore their creative talents. So I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you did that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So it was really a conducive environment where I could actually explore my talents. And finally, I would say that the entire culture is like that of a startup, professional startup.
Okay.
So I was very much interested into sustainability. So I joined Sustainability Club along with a few like-minded people.
Nice.
But we had to start the entire club from scratch. So, so we had to set up the norms, the culture and everything.
Correct.
And we went through a lot of trial and errors. We did implement certain things. We realized that those things don't work. And that's how we learned. So this kind of things, it was like being a co-founder of a startup.
Amazing.
And you learn through making those kind of mistakes. But now it has increased my confidence. And I really feel very nice to look at these last 2 years and how it was so engaging, so enriching in terms of learning. So these were my key highlights. So
great.
Sumit may add on.
Great to know that, Devarshi. I think in a way you did take a chance on BITSoM, right? You were a part of the founding batch. You did take a chance. They took a chance on you. Seems like it worked out from both sides, right? So that's great.
Yeah, it paid off really well.
Yeah. And also the sustainability part, right? Very interesting. I'm personally, I'm interested to a certain extent. A lot of my students, especially I feel like the Gen Z are more conscious of these things, right? So good to know that there is an avenue for that there as well for students to explore. Amazing.
Definitely.
Sumit, what about you? How was your journey? Tell us about your highlights.
I think Devarshi has aptly summarized the kind of holistic opportunities that BITSoM provided to us,
right.
Be it through clubs and committees making mistakes, because since we are starting those clubs, we had the complete opportunity to try as many things as we want. If things don't work out, then we can obviously switch to other things. But let me pick up on what Uday sir had mentioned about winning at the workplace, which is quite interesting to even talk about and even think about it. So we had different courses. For example, we had a course on theater where we were not taught about acting, but going out there, expressing ourselves.
Right.
And the best part about this was, since we were doing this amongst our batch, who we were very comfortable with, we could make all the mistakes that we could, because when we go into the corporate world, we would be prepared to face the world. For the last block, we had a course on personal branding, where we were asked if we would have a tagline, what would that be? Now, this is a very interesting question, because we have heard about brands having a taglines, but even you yourself is a brand. How would you want the world to look at you? So this was a good retrospective question that made me revisit my life, how I have lived so far, and in the future, how I would want to live my life. Another thing, or another importance of having a small batch that BITSoM had, I did not realize, was through the corporate lectures, the spotlight sessions that we had. Usually in a 300, 400 batch size, we don't get as many opportunities to directly interact with the leaders. But since we had a smaller batch, we had more visibility, more opportunities to directly interact with CEOs, startup founders. For example, I was a part of the organizing committee of Beacon, which is the management fest of BITSoM. Since we were the first batch, we completely ideated that event. And I personally got an opportunity to interact with several company founders. Before joining BITSoM, I was quite intimidated while approaching these seniors, because I did not know what they would think about me or what I can go and talk to them. But after getting so many opportunities, I now feel confident that I can go and talk to them about whatever I feel like. I can ask them questions about their company, their hobbies, so this has been a good experience for me. And I can certainly see a change in the Sumit Saboo that joined BITSoM and in the Sumit Saboo that graduated from BITSoM.
That's great. That's great. Very, very nice, Sumit. Very nice. I think those leadership interactions that you spoke about are extremely crucial. I wasn't fortunate like you folks to have such a stellar education, but I happened to work for Google, right? So there, every leader interaction used to come back very motivated and, learning something new from them. And I think also what you spoke about, the self-awareness part, right? Both of you touched on that, just sort of programs within the college to sort of helping you become more self-aware. I think that's such a key element, and it's difficult because you can't get that in a short time. It takes a while. Like for instance, it took me years to figure out that teaching was my calling, and I ultimately shifted from the corporate world to teaching. Took ages. Hopefully that it wouldn't take you that long because of these initiatives. So it's great to know. Great. Thanks so much for sharing this. I'll pick up a few questions from the live chat, and then Sumit and Devarshi, I'll come back to you just to know about your placement experience and specifically for your profile. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Okay. So Ronak wants to know, and Mandar, that this is for you. Do gap years of 2 to 3 years actually matter in final placements? I'm guessing he's talking about gap years before getting into an MBA for whatever reasons, CAT prep or other reasons.
So not really in terms of, if it, as long as it is, properly justified.
Right.
See, companies definitely, take an observation of that.
Absolutely.
But, I don't think there's anything called taboo in the times that we live in. Right.
Right.
As long as, a person speaks about the kind of skills he or she has developed during that period, the kind of learning he or she did, I think nothing can be held against any individual. Mm-hmm. But if you ask me that, do companies take a notice of that? Yes, they do.
Right. Okay.
I think what is important is to come across honestly in terms of what exactly has been the gap and what exactly have you done in that particular gap that you may have.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay, Dipti Jain, what should be some quality in terms of analytical tools anyone can polish before joining BITSoM? So like pre-MBA work in terms of analytics. Is there anything that they need to do before joining BITSoM?
Sumit, maybe since you're a recent pass out, you can throw some light around.
Analytic. So be good with Excel and PowerPoint. Definitely, we have a course on presentations where we are actually taught it was taught by Dr. Avantika Tomar, who is a partner at EY Parthenon. So we directly got to know how consulting PPTs are made from a partner who does that on a daily basis. But definitely polish your Excel skills, because that will help you in your coursework and in your internships as well. And have some basic knowledge about Microsoft PowerPoint and Microsoft Word. But BITSoM will help you polish those as well.
Okay, nice. Dr. Tomar actually interestingly did a session for 2IIM on consulting, so I know her. She's amazing, and I think consulting PPTs are gold. If you can make a consulting like PPT, I think you've sort of arrived in life. The packaging skills that consultants have is insane, right? Okay, awesome. So I think Excel and PowerPoint. I think definitely I agree with that. And don't worry too much about what you need to do before MBA. I think just chill and relax, because the next 2 years are going to be very intense. I think that would be my 2 cents. All right. Hitesh wants to know, we see companies trying to expand by both size and revenue all the time. I'm just curious, how does it work for a B school? So BITSoM being relatively a new player, what are the challenges that you are facing in terms of expanding? Size and revenue wise? Very interesting question.
So in terms of, as far as the class size is concerned, the highest that it would go up to will be 350.
Okay.
Currently we are at 150, but that scale will happen in next 2 to 3 years time.
Right.
But if you talk about the 5 years objectives, I think, number one is we definitely want to keep improving as far as our our placement outcomes are concerned. But as far as academics is concerned, definitely, we have the right model in place.
Right.
And then, of course, we want to keep improving as far as our domestic and international rankings are concerned.
Absolutely.
Right? And also, though we come under the Institute of Eminence, the degree gets powered by BITS Pilani, but we will also go for some of the international accreditations.
Okay.
So that's the objective. Now, this is in terms of the quality and the overall, how we want to create our core product. But in terms of the revenue expansion, of course, there is a thought around expanding in executive education, right?
Okay.
We do plan to create a weekend MBA or a executive MBA.
Nice.
We also want to start short duration and long duration MDP programs. So definitely those will be, the second contributors as far as the revenue is concerned.
Okay.
And also more than the revenue, what is important, Jatin, that when we do executive education, the kind of content, the kind of knowledge that we create, it has a rub-on for our postgraduate programs also.
Yeah.
Right? So we want to create a larger ecosystem where we want to have practitioners, where we want to have leaders to come and give their inputs. Because the learning should not be an inward pyramid, but it should be an outward pyramid. Business school is not a school for philosophy, but it's a practical academy. So we want all the best practices of business to come into our classrooms. So in any forms, whether it is executive education, whether it is weekend MBA, whether it is an executive, long duration programs, we will encourage that. And I just feel that revenue would be, then incidental.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. I think that's great to know. All right. Okay, let's see. I was expecting this question. As the fourth round is also taken for admission cycle, are there still seats to be filled? Will there be a fifth round? Right. I think a lot of people have been asking me this as well. And my question to them is, why would you want a fifth round? I mean, why have you been waiting for so long? But anyway,
I'll be very honest. I have my serious doubts if there will be any fifth round.
Okay.
We are progressing pretty well, and I think the response has been fantastic.
Okay.
As far as all the rounds have been concerned, we also have been extremely selective, and because the founding class itself was quite good, and the incoming class also has been equally impressive.
Yeah.
So we want to maintain the quality, and at the same time, as I said, we will be expanding the class this year. But so far as the 3 rounds have been concerned, we have done pretty well.
Okay. Okay. All right. And I think one more talking to Amit from the admissions team before. I think folks, if you haven't applied, of course the rounds are closed, and as Uday said, it's very unlikely that there would be the applications would reopen for this year. But if you're looking at next year, just know that their applications are likely to begin in September, if I'm not wrong, right? So do look out for that if you're looking for admissions in 2024. Okay. All right. Okay. Tamsa says, when can we expect the pre-MBA learning courses to be rolled out to the BITSoM converts?
So traditionally, I think what Sumit and Devarshi must have witnessed that it starts somewhere in the month of June.
Okay.
And the classes start in July. So basically, we give a period of three to 4 weeks for a student to get into the groove.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Tamsa clearly is very excited. So June, Tamsa, June it is. One more question, deviating from placements. I think a number of folks are waiting for their applications to be reviewed. I think they're still in process, so they were wondering till what date will they hear, final result from BITSoM.
Jatin, usually it takes 3 to 4 weeks
for
the admission committee to revert back to the candidate after the date the candidate has been interviewed.
Okay. Okay.
It takes traditionally 3 to 4 weeks time.
Okay. Okay. All right. And so the pending ones, if there are any pending ones, is there a date by which?
So we are already on 18th of April. I think we will target to wind up everything by 2nd week or the 3rd week of May.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. That's great. All right. What's the average GMAT for a full-time MBA from BITSoM? I think average GMAT score, Abhishek, is mentioned on their website. You can have a look at it. They mentioned the average CAT scores and GMAT scores for their previous batches. So you can have a look at that. Let me see. Okay. Does BITSoM consider CMAT also? Entrance exam?
No, we only consider GMAT, GRE, and CAT.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. All right. I'll take one more admission related question. What's the ideal percentile to get into BITSoM if a student has 80 plus in ACADS? Very specific, but yeah, let's say 8 plus ACADS, what would be the percentile, CAT percentile, or that would be required?
Jatin, we don't have any cutoff.
Correct. Correct.
We
Yeah.
don't have any cutoff, but at the same time, if you look at our averages, whether it's
Yeah.
a FAT, GMAT, or GRE, it's very, very healthy.
Right.
We do say that we are looking for strengths in a candidate's profile. We have a method which basically looks into all the attributes.
Right.
The past academics, the work experience, if there is any
Yeah.
contribution towards the community, co-curricular activities.
Right.
But at the same time, healthy test scores are important for the hygiene. But at the same time, we don't have any cutoffs as such.
Cutoffs. Correct. Correct. Sounds good. Yeah. And I think that'll be sort of like a bit of an unusual thing for. I think when I heard this for the first time, it took me a while to digest this as well. But it is true for BITSoM. It's kind of unusual that way that they don't have a cutoff, whereas we live in a world where we have like all these colleges with very clear and stringent cutoffs. So
Jatin, we are a global business school.
Right.
The same practice which is followed by ISB or Harvard for that matter.
Right.
We don't have any cutoffs. So because
Okay.
we are looking more for strengths in a profile. We are more of a method where we want to select people rather than eliminate.
Got it. Makes sense. I think that's good to know. All right. Okay. So Sumit and Devarshi, I'll come back to you. Just to sort of, I had one question, specific question for each of you. I'll start with Sumit. Sumit, so you came in with 22 months of consulting experience, right? I mean, that's already sort of very powerful experience that you came in with, right? A field, a domain that MBA grads wish to get into. You already had that pre-MBA, right? So it was already very strong. So first question is, how did the BITSoM MBA add value to your profile specifically? And talk to us about the ROI in terms of your pre and post placement salaries.
All right. So let me give you a brief about my profile. I worked for 22 months in Tredence Analytics, which is a data analytics and consulting firm. So I worked for an FMCG client on 3 projects. One of the projects was on e-commerce. So that time I realized that I really enjoyed the e-commerce part and the FMCG part of the work and wanted to get into the FMCG or FMCD space. Luckily, I've gotten into Eureka, which is an FMCD company. And I've also gotten a digital transformation role where the company is moving digitally. So it kind of aligns with what I wanted to get into, that is e-commerce, FMCD. Thankfully, BITSoM has a specialization e-commerce, which is one of my specializations too. And we had courses on logistics, e-commerce, where several e-commerce leaders like Mr. Vivek Sundar from Swiggy, he himself came and told about how Swiggy expanded into India. So these real-time insights, real-life insights of e-commerce companies added to the kind of learning that I was expecting from BITSoM. And I'm grateful that I got that. So all in all, I wanted to move into e-commerce from analytics, wanted to move into consulting, move into FMCG, and that is what I have gotten into. If we, how my experience helped me pre-BITSoM and in BITSoM was, I had e-commerce experience. The e-commerce courses at BITSoM further added to the kind of learning.
Right.
If we talk about the ROI, my salary has become almost 3 times of my pre-MBA salary.
Okay. That's a pretty good jump given that you were already in consulting, right? Okay. And the switch. So you made a major switch from sort of analytics to FMCG, and kind of like the program did add value in that sense to equip you with the skills and knowledge to make that switch.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's good to know. Thanks for sharing that, Sumit. Devarshi, I'll come to you. So now you entered the MBA program with 14 months of work ex, right? In the chemical industry.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, is the industry that you're heading to? Talk to us a little bit about your placement. Is that very different, right? And how did the MBA help you make that switch?
Sure. So I'm heading towards a bank, and it's a product management role. So it's a very different role from what I came in.
Very
in
interesting.
terms of ROI of salary increase, it's around 270% increase from what I used to earn before. So that's a pretty decent increase.
Yeah.
But the real ROI which I consider here is it constitutes the former part of a question. That is the transition which you talked about.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, before July 2021, that they were very one directional. He had an experience in mechanical engineering and he would have gone forward with mechanical engineering, but he had little confidence in trying different domains. But as I came to BITSoM, I explored different things. So when I did my during my internship, I had a marketing internship role in a
Okay.
B2B e-commerce firm. So it was a very different experience.
Very nice.
Then one of our social life projects was with an NGO where we had helped them set up a library.
Okay.
Then one of our corporate life project was with a digital rural insurance firm. So it was a rural insurance, again, a very different domain. Then when we went to LBS immersion program, we worked with a startup. It was a Hong Kong based startup, and they wanted to launch their digital radio station. So we helped them create a strategy of how to launch it. So
Very
again,
nice.
an entertainment industry which is quite different.
Right.
So when
Wait, sorry,
decided
sorry,
to-
I'm sorry. Which market was this? Was this in India? The
So-
setup of the Sorry.
Yeah, so it was for Indians, Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, all those Southeast Asians that are living across, basically Southeast Asian
diaspora
diaspora
community.
across
Okay,
the
okay.
globe. Yeah.
Nice.
So
nice.
we had to
Okay.
do a consumer research in London. We had to ask questions to those people living in London
Very
and
nice.
do consumer analysis. So it, again, very different from what I had done before.
Amazing.
So when I joined, when I got this role, I was pretty much confident, even though I have no prior experience in banking.
Mhm.
And again, product management is something which I'm going, which will be my first time. But still,
Right.
because I tried different things and I got successful in it, I realized that there are some skill sets which I developed, which are applicable, which are transferable to all domains.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that is something very important here. And again, product management role was my sought after role, my pursued role. And I
Okay.
got into it. So I'm very excited for this new opportunity that I'm going to get.
Nice. Nice. That's great. That's great. Congratulations and all the best for that. I'm sure it's
Thank
going to
you.
be a great journey for you.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing to hear. So LBS immersion. Yeah, let me just quickly take maybe one more question. I think we're running out of time. We have about 5 minutes, but there's a lot of interest in that LBS immersion program as well. Could you tell us a little bit about it? Maybe a snippet about this program? Anyone?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think me and Sumit, we both went to LBS. So we
Okay.
both have a very good experience studying there.
Right.
So the faculties there were also really great. Just like BITSoM, again, LBS faculties are amazing.
Yeah.
They taught us some very good concepts and the way to look at technology. For example, one of their professors taught us how to understand technology. He taught us cryptocurrency, but in a very different manner.
Okay.
And the way he taught us, I can still remember it, and I still use this approach in all other domains.
Nice.
So that was something which is a key takeaway. But another important thing was doing projects there with their startups.
Right.
Because doing project in Mumbai is very different from doing project in London. You
I
get
can
that
imagine.
cross-cultural experience. Their culture is very different. And once you go in there, ask questions, do a survey at a mall there, that is
Right.
again something very different. It helps you learn a lot of lessons. And once you complete that course, you come out very different from what you went there. So that was
Nice.
my experience, but I think Sumit can also add certain
Nice.
points to it.
Good to know that.
No, Devarshi, what you said is absolutely right about the cross-cultural experience that LBS offered us. So
Right.
also there were several events that were happening on the LBS campus. So we got to interact with the students who study in LBS. So we
Wonderful.
had our course running in parallel, but then getting to interact with LBS students who themselves are from different parts of the world is a
Right.
very unique experience that you usually wouldn't get.
Right. Incredibly jealous of you both for getting that experience. I'm just kidding. But it's great. It sounds amazing. Who wouldn't want to go and study in London Business School, right, for a few weeks? I think that's an amazing opportunity. Okay. So Kshitij, you have a question about how many front, middle roles in Big 3, Accenture, Big 4. We did discuss that in the earlier part of the session. We did a sort of a deep dive in consulting and investment banking. So, do sort of have a look at the recording. And the detailed placement report, as Uday and Mandar said, will be released in the first week of May. So you'll get to deep dive into the whole placement report. So look forward to that. All right. Okay, fantastic. I think it's been a great session. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights, especially Sumit and Devarshi. Thanks for taking out the time. Wonderful interacting with you about your experience and your journey at BITSoM. Both of you are headed to some amazing companies, so all the very best. And enjoy the journey, the exciting new chapter that's coming up for you. But thank you so much for joining. And Mandar Desai, of course, thank you so much for sharing all the insights. We look forward to the placement report that will be released, and we'll release that on our channel as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Jatin. Thank you
you,
so much for having us here. Lovely interacting with you.
Thank you.
Jatin?
Likewise.
Pleasure interacting this evening.
Thanks, Mandar. Likewise. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, folks, we'll see you. If you have any other questions about BITSoM, you can put that in comments. We'll get the team to respond. And yeah, I'll see you in a next live stream very soon. Okay. All right. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good evening.